proposed order for this commission. And now this 25th day of April 2018, pursuant to the joint petition filed on February 16, 2018, Penn National Gaming Inc. and Pinnacle Entertainment, and the averments contained therein relating to the proposed acquisition of Pinnacle and the substantial change in ownership of licensees Washington Trotting Association, LLC, and Mount Laurel Racing, Inc., in accordance with Section 9357 and 9318 of the Racing Act. The Commission, having conducted the necessary review and analysis of the proposed transaction, the applicable licensing documentation, and such additional information as requested by the Commission or its staff, based upon its review, the Commission hereby finds that, number one, PNGI and Pinnacle have properly complied with the provisions of the prior notice requirements of the proposed substantial change in ownership as set forth in 3 Pertinent Statute 9357-2 of the Act. Number two, PNGI and its duly licensed entities have demonstrated by clear and convincing documentary evidence that their ongoing participation in horse racing or related pari-mutuel wagering activities is consistent with the best interests of racing pursuant to the Racing Act. Number three, PNGI's principals, directors, officers, and key employees have previously demonstrated by clear and convincing evidence they are persons of good character, honesty, and integrity, and consistent with the best interests of racing pursuant to the Racing Act. Section 9318 of the Racing Act. Number four, pursuant to the Racing Act, Section 9357, PNGI has demonstrated that the proposed substantial change in ownership in Pinnacle and the Meadows licensed racing entities by and through PNGI's proposed acquisition of Pinnacle is in the best interests of racing. Number five, the Meadows licensed entities, WTA and MLR, have previously been granted all requisite racing licenses and approvals by this Commission to, one, conduct horse race meetings with pari-mutuel wagering at the Meadows Racetrack and Casino, two, operate an electronic wagering system on horse racing at the Meadows Racetrack and Casino, simulcast horse races at the Meadows Racetrack Casino pursuant to the 9329 and 9344 of the Racing Act, and to operate the previously approved non-primary locations in the Racing Act, Section 9331. Therefore, in accordance with the requested relief as set forth in the joint petition, it is hereby ordered that the above referenced joint petition related to the substantial change in ownership is hereby granted. The proposed substantial change in ownership in Pinnacle by virtue of PNGI's anticipated acquisition of Pinnacle and the Meadows licensed entities is hereby approved in accordance with 3 Pertinence Section 9357 of the Act. Number three, the proposed substantial change in ownership in Pinnacle by PNGI may be consummated without resulting in any termination, suspension, or modification of any license or approval previously granted by this Commission to PNGI, Pinnacle, WTA, and MLR. It is further ordered the Commission's approval is hereby issued upon the general conditions set forth in the Racing Act and with the following specific conditions. Number one, PNGI must provide the Commission or its staff execute copies of all closing documents and associated exhibits no later than 10 business days after closing. The executed documents shall not materially depart from the final draft copies previously submitted to the Commission and its staff. Number two, PNGI shall immediately submit license applications for all individuals or entities who are associated with the above transaction and have not yet been previously licensed by the Commission. Number three, PNGI shall within 10 days of the closing date provide documentary confirmation that the GLPI Penn National Master Lease is not changed as a result of the transaction. Number four, PNGI shall within 10 business days of the closing date provide documentary confirmation that the WTA license is not changed as a result of the transaction. Number five, in consultation with Commission staff, PNGI shall submit within 10 business days of the closing date the prorated portion of the horse race meeting license previously issued to Pinnacle fee, prorated portion of the fee of the horse racing meeting license previously issued to Pinnacle, and the applicable electronic wagering license fee, and pay for the investigative costs incurred by the Commission associated with the substantial change in ownership of the Meadows Racetrack and Casino. Number six, any modification to the racing operation, facility, any racing marketing initiatives should be submitted to the Commission within 10 days of the anticipated modification. That would be as in order.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion to accept the order. So moved.
Second. Commissioner Martin on the motion, Mr. Egloff on the second. Egloff on the second. Discussion. Any order? Motion. Discussion. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And abstentions?
It's correct. I abstain. I was not part of the discussion.
Okay.
So I will abstain. Thank you.
And I abstain.
For the record, Sal Bunda abstains and Dr. Sweeney abstains as well. Mr. Jones, not present. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Quite a lot. Thanks.
Same argument.
Okay. We'll pick up with the new business. Brett, please.
I've got a number of items I'll be seeking approval for under new business. I'll be seeking one motion, A through K, but I'll be looking for approval on A and B, which are simulcast calendars were made for all 6 parent mutual tracks. C, Prescal requests a wagering profile change. D, the Metals request to receive Bangor main signal. E through I, Metals is requesting to update their rules for a bunch of multi-leg wagers and part of the wagering profile as well. J, Parks they request to send their signal to South African Racing, Malaya Gaming and Leisure to co-mingle the pools for 2018. And K, a motion for Parks to request to send their signal to Horse Journeys, a handicapping tournament platform, which is held, the contract is held in part by Marmar. So, Mr. Chairman, I seek one motion to approve A through K.
Okay, thank you, Brett. We have a motion to accept Commissioner Ellis on the motion, Commissioner Rogers on the second. Discussion of items identified on the agenda, B1, A through K. Motion by Commissioner Ellis. Hearing none, those in favor of accepting this motion say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
Item 2, at this time, there's no ratifications.
Okay, thank you, Brett. George, on licensing adjudications.
We just did the BNGI.
And no adjudications this month.
As to C3, pending appeal numbers. Commissioners, as of last month, we have one Pocono down matter that the Board of Judges have. We have 7 minor racing matters before the Board of Stewards. The bureaus have received a total of 0 appeals as of today. 2 of them were from last month were sent to the legal office, which have been scheduled, so we now have a total of 4 matters to be scheduled, 1 medication, 1 blood gas, and 2 DQs. There are no hearings awaiting any kind of decision, meaning they've been conducted and awaiting the decision of the hearing officer. There are no adjudications, and there are still remaining 2 Commonwealth Court decisions that we are awaiting the Commonwealth Court's opinion. That's in the Lorman DQ and the Sarissa medication case. And the Zoletta et al. In federal district court, we are still waiting for an action on motion to dismiss filed by the AG. Are there any questions on the appeals in here?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I think that this list is substantially smaller than when we first started this process almost 2 years ago. And I would hope it's because the word has gotten out from this commission that we are serious about this issue. And but I commend you. I think this report was a good idea, and I think we've made a lot of progress. And I want to thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or comments from council on the amendment?
All set.
Thank you. Old business, competition testing, Tom?
Sure. A request has been made. We're going to give an update every month on out-of-competition testing. For the first quarter, we did 117 out-of-competition tests. There were no positives found. Last year, we did about 375 for 2017. We anticipate to be slightly above that number this year and moving forward. That's the out-of-competition testing. I have one other issue I want to address, and it's the Breeders' Awards issue for the Thoroughbreds. So I just want to clear up any confusion. All the awards for 2017 have been processed by my office and paid by the controller, unless there's a specific technical issue involved with an I-9 or whatever. For 2018, January and February's has been processed by my office. They have been sent to the comptroller. To be perfectly frank, January's will probably be somewhere around 21 to 30 days late in the payment. February's, we're cautiously optimistic will be on time. They're due around the 10th of May, roughly. Okay?
Yeah, I've been told that both January and February will come out approximately the same time.
As we move forward with Marches, we believe we're back in line. No excuse, but PDA, my bureau, our bureau, has not dragged our feet in this. Quite frankly, as you all know, Brian, we had a medical issue, some people out, we had some retirements, we had some reorganization. I believe we've crossed those hurdles and we will continue to, but starting with March, we should be back on time.
And I'd like to thank you for, after we met, what you did to get back on track.
Okay. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brian. Marketing, Ashley, welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ashley Eisenfield, Director of Marketing for the State Horse Racing Commission. I'm going to start off with the Marketing Research Final Report. The Marketing Research Final Report has been distributed to the Commissioners and each racetrack. And again, the Marketing Research will be the baseline for the industry's creative branding campaign. The objective of the marketing research was to identify consumers' target segments that are the best fit for Pennsylvania's horse breeding and racing, and to find the strategies and tactics that are the most effective in convincing patrons to participate in our sport. Also, to clarify the message of action strategies and to build a fan base. Drive discovery and awareness of Pennsylvania horse racing and breeding, as well as an entertainment option among new groups of customers. One of the branding position strategies we will consider is having a PA horse racing festival come off the success of the Triple Crown races, which will feature a festival-like atmosphere. We will continue this momentum by holding a PA horse racing festival each week during the summer at different tracks. The campaign's festival would be similar in elements that attract and entertain, and also include educational elements that target our target audiences. But each festival would also be customized to the location's demographic and the live racing that's happening at the tracks. Here's the update for the grants that we have. The 5-year stakeholder grants have gone through the state's signature process, and the grant money is available to be drawn upon. 4 of the 6 stakeholders have already submitted invoices. They currently are in the 30-day reimbursement process. In the future, the 5-year grant will expedite the distribution of the funds. The industry branding campaign marketing grant is expected to be starting the signature process by next week. The Horse Racing Association and the Marketing Advisory Committee have already begun working together on the creative branding and website development for the industry. The Horse Racing Association issued an RFQ for the creative branding and website development on April 9th. The RFQ's deadline to submit proposals is April 27th. The proposals will be evaluated and interviews will be scheduled with potential firms with the PA Horse Racing Association and the Marketing Advisory Committee next week. Anyone have any questions on that?
Questions on the grants, timelines? I guess I would just ask, you mentioned in the 4 of the 6 grants have gone through the signature process.
No, they all went through the signature process and have come back. 4 of them have submitted invoices.
4 have invoices.
So,
Okay. Good. Questions for Ashley? Comments?
I just wanted to touch a little bit on the fair harness racing. The fair harness racing guide draft is currently with the press office for review and design. Again, this year the commission will partner with the 4-H to give educational tours and jog cart rides to 3 of the county fairs. To enhance this year's program, the commission purchased 2 double-seated jog carts from Pennsbury Enterprise to ensure the 4-H events participants have a chance to ride in a cart. We also plan to use the jog carts in other events and to engage the youth. The PHHA also purchased an additional 2 double-seated jog carts that will be used at our 4-H events and with the youth harness racing camp this summer. And another note with the York Fair will be holding a press conference this Friday at 11 o'clock at the York Expo for this summer's Wild West Summerfest on July 7th and 8th. This event will be hosting the fair harness racing for this year. So if anybody would like to come, that will be announced this Friday. And then lastly, the 2017 Race Track Casino Benchmark Report was released this month, and I believe Tom has a few comments that he would like to share on it.
Just a couple comments. We've extended an invitation to Kevin Kyle from the Gaming Board to come up and kind of go through the report. He's probably the most qualified person to do that. Hopefully at the next commission meeting, he'll be able to do it. He has some internal workings to work out, but he will hopefully be here in the May meeting to go through it. The commissioners have the benchmark report. I'm not going to go through it, but there's some favorable things in it, the least of which is the PGCB is encouraged by some of the initiatives that the industry has undertaken. They believe that the money coming from slots has a positive impact on racing and breeding. They believe it's good for the agricultural community. Those are all positives. When you go through this report, I suggest for the commissioners to be prepared for Kevin, if you have any questions. There's a lot of positives on what's happened, what works, how it works in the summary here. And
Excuse me, he'll be at our next meeting then?
hopefully with PGCB approval, he'll be here.
All right, very
And
good.
he'll walk through all the
This
details.
was- All right, very good.
It covers everything that's got to do with racing, the backstretch improvements that the tracks have made over the last 10 years. Talked about breeding, Thoroughbred, Standardbred. He talked about, the report talks about number of horses competing, and it talks about handle. The one thing I got when I read this is, I go to the handle, that's my background, that's what I check, and there's been some declines in the handle. But if you track where it's been the last 2 or 3 years, you can see that what this commission has done in conjunction with the stakeholders in the industry is starting to have an effect. And as I said, I don't want to get into all this, I'm going to leave that for Kevin, but there have been a couple of things. For example, you take a look at the on-track handle, it's down about 4%. Well, it's been running about 7-8% before that. You take a look at the off-track handle, it was down 26% before, now it's down 8%. So what I'm suggesting to you on the positive, for example, out-of-state exports, that's up 4% versus being down almost 5% the year before. And total live handle, which is obviously the bread and butter of our horses groups here, it's up about 3% for the year, previously down about 5.5%. So while there's been some areas where the handle has gone down, it's been mitigated by the actions of this commission and the industry. And I suggest to you, areas that we worked on that have an impact are the integrity questions, some of the regulations. And I hopefully, when Kevin gets done, you guys will have some questions for him. But moving forward, stay the course, we continue to work on the integrity, we continue to work with the horsemen's groups and the racetracks to try to make things better. And I think this report exemplifies many of that position.
Tom, thank you. Just to amplify his comment, if you have time, read it all, but particularly the executive summary, first 2 or 3 pages, we're all called upon to sort of talk about the benefits of racing in Pennsylvania. Every time I read this piece, it is that reminder that of what value has been added to horse racing, number 1, and 2, the larger society, in and through the tax, property tax benefits homeowners, right? We don't often speak of these numbers, but it's a reminder here that this was an important part of the conversation when the legislation was passed. So look forward to Kevin's presentation next month. Further questions or comments for Ashley?
Yes. I would like to compliment Ashley and Brett for their work on this draft copy of the harness racing fair guide for 2018. I think it's well done. And again, I think we're moving in the right direction. And the driver owning that. When will these be out in the field for people? Just a projection.
I anticipate probably about 3 weeks.
All right.
Very safe.
And our distribution on that?
Distribution to go to all the racetracks, it'll go to a number of off-site locations, truck stops along the way, and all the industry participants as well.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, just a general question. I mean, so there's a lot of conversation about the marketing campaign and the stakeholder groups involved. Are we generally on track with granting decisions, campaign discussions?
Yes, everything seems to be going on track from what I kind of plotted out, working very well with the committee and the state for the PA Horse Racing Association. Seems to be going pretty smoothly. Everyone's on the same page.
And if everything stays to schedule, when would we anticipate a new campaign?
I think it's going to be a 2-part, just because of the time constraints. Something in the beginning, or we're trying to do the beginning of September, at least the website launch and digital campaign, because that's going to be a very quick turnaround to get done, and then reevaluating and putting hard some traditional media then in the spring. So hopefully something in September, right before our big Breeders' Crown, the PA Derby, the sale. We would like to have the website up and running so we can feature all those things.
Good, thank you.
But Mr. Chairman, we just still have the June 30th deadline to distribute the money, is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, and that's why, and I'll make the statement that Ashley was too kind to make. All the 5-year grants have been submitted and then come back. 4 of the 6 groups have submitted their invoices, and I don't know which 2 haven't, but my message is I would highly recommend to the 2 groups that have spent money, that have invoices, to get it in. I think that would be to the advantage of whatever 2 groups that are. And I don't know commissioners, but Ashley and the powers to be in the PDA, Sheila and so on, have worked really, really hard to get this done. So we need the help of the 2 groups to send the invoices in so we can get this done.
Ashley, I would ask you, besides him asking them, I'd like you to ask them again too. Let's get that loop closed.
And it might be helpful if, I don't know if anybody is here who could address, Ashley used the word the PA Horse Racing Association. That is a new thing to us. It used to be called the Equine Coalition. If somebody could just give us the exact, chapter and verse on, that is an LLC, is that a corporation, what exactly happened there?
This is our TV star.
So the Pennsylvania Equine Coalition was kind of an ad hoc group, so to speak. They were not formally incorporated in any sense. So what we did was we formed, the members of the Equine Coalition, the 4 horsemen's organizations and the 2 breeders' organizations formed a nonprofit entity, Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association, to administer this marketing campaign.
So it's a corporation or it's an LLC?
It's a nonprofit.
Corporation, it's a corporation.
Yes, yes. The 501c6, I believe it is. Yes.
Okay, so just so everybody, because that's a new word for us. VA Horse Racing, what is it called?
Pennsylvania Horse Racing Association.
So that's no. Now, is the Equine Coalition moniker still going to be used for something, or that's done now?
No, it's a single purpose entity set up specifically to promote and market the industry as a whole. Pennsylvania Horse Racing, the Equine Coalition will continue to exist separately as an entity for advocating for horsemen's issues with the legislature, and probably within the commission as well, but they're 2 separate and distinct organizations.
Okay, that's good, just because we didn't really know that. So that's
Yep,
good.
absolutely.
Get that out of you.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. One other item under old business, the interesting.
Yes. As you recall, last month, commissioners, you directed staff to draft up legislation with regards to the medication compact. I believe you all received a copy of this on late Monday afternoon. One point I want to clarify, I think there's some confusion out there. This draft legislation is geared towards thoroughbred only, and I just want to stress that point. And I'll turn the floor to you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, some comments, and I'll just open this up. There's been a lot of discussion the last couple of months about the compact and its genesis and issues of what it's planning to solve or hope to achieve. The discussions of hearing this for the last couple of months, I mean, the thought occurred to us that it would probably make sense to express to our Pennsylvania congressional delegation, which is probably the closest party at this point to the conversation compact. They should at least be aware of our concerns. So we'd like to recommend to the commission that we, as the commission, express that those concerns via letter to the Pennsylvania congressional delegation as a way to both inform that debate, right, but also to acknowledge that in Pennsylvania, particularly, there are some issues relative to that governance, to the need for it, et cetera, between our thoroughbred and our standardbred interests, right? We have focused on the draft legislation that George has sort of penned out as a rough draft and laying out some options. And the more that we looked at that, it seemed a little premature to launch into, conversation with our state legislature about what those options are, or even suggesting the need for them, prior to expressing to our congressional delegation that there's concern here and potentially guiding them further on what to do relative to Pennsylvania's interest as they consider this piece of legislation in the House or Senate in the U.S. Congress. That was sort of the thought that we had, just knowing that there's a level of anxiety around this that continues. And part of it is the evolving discussion of the federal side about what is in, what is out, who is in, and who is out. It just seemed to be too dynamic for us to sort of launch in at the state level at this point without at least first building a record on the federal level about interest and concern. So that's the conversation. I'll hold that up to the commissioners. Comment, guide us here on the appropriateness of the letter, insight on what we should do or say. Any thoughts from the commission?
Well, I just want to comment that I support the idea of thoroughbred only, but I think everyone should recognize that the federal legislation, if it goes the way it is, covers both breeds, and that should be something that's dealt with by both breeds. So, but not in this particular legislation. legislation
The
to move
public
forward.
use might please.
Right, but we're still waiting.
That's right.
Which way the federal legislation is.
No, that's it, that uses my complaint, so Dr. Sweeney can't hear us.
I said that the federal legislation, as currently drafted, covers both breeds.
Well, I think we kind of clarified, I want to make sure we got clear to everybody here. There's nothing moving forward from the commission right now going to the legislature or anything. But what we have done is talk about it a lot, discussed it a lot, and had a rough draft drawn up, which a lot of discussion went over. And then made clear, in everything we've done so far, it has been strictly thoroughbred, not standardbred. But Sal's concern and everyone's concern is over the possible federal legislation, which we don't really have any control over. But if the federal legislation goes through the way it's presently being presented, it will be thoroughbred and standardbred. So we are trying to put ourselves in a position where we are addressing the issue here as much as we possibly can. And nothing is on the books to be submitted to the legislature or anything that would entail opening up the Racing Act or anything like that. Just so anybody has any worries about that, that's not on the agenda.
I would echo and support the doctor's comments in regard to being thoroughbred and not standardbred.
So that is Commissioner Moore. Other comments? It's always good to see.
Last Thursday, thank you, Sam Beagle, President of the BHHA.
If you would please just identify yourself as for Dr. Sweeney.
I think I did.
I'll type it.
Last Thursday, the United States Charting Association held an executive meeting, and we basically have started our own medication committee. Okay, we are withdrawing, or I don't know how you say it. We never joined them, I don't think. Any of the above. We think the thoroughbreds are going down a bad path, and we don't want to be part of it. And we're gonna have our own regulatory and advisory group as we move forward. And it'll be announced within the next week. And we think what Mr. DeBundis said a little bit ago has no validity to it at the federal level.
Other comments? Thank you.
That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you.
Everything that you've said has pretty much been addressed to us. Any recommendations you'll come up with, we'd like to have them presented to us so that we can compare those with what we have discussed. And if there's any variation, at this point, the main point being that the standardbred rules and regulations versus the thoroughbred rules and regulations have got to go two different ways. And I think we're on the same page with that.
Right, keep us appraised of what you're doing.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've talked about the letter, so we'll take the next step then with staff, council, to direct that letter on behalf of the commission, which we'll share with you, just to make sure that it captures the conversations and thoughts that we've had.
At our May meeting.
Well, I know we'll share it before. I think the hope would be that letter would be in final form in the next couple of weeks and out the door.
Which will show it to us at the May meeting. If we have any questions.
Yeah, you'll get a draft copy here before send it. So just be watching for that. Our goal will be to finalize that letter and put it out on behalf of the commission to our congressional delegation in the next several weeks. Okay?
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, despite Sam's comments, I applaud the fact that the standardbred people are going in their own direction, because there's always been this feeling that they do have separate needs and goals. So I applaud the fact that they are going a separate way and have separate regulations, despite his comments.
So what the record shows is actually some agreement. Very good.
I didn't agree that what I said was wrong.
Okay, thank you. So we'll do that letter. We'll share that with you. I would just say to all as well that amplifying what we say to our PA delegation through your own channel would be equally, right? We'll do it. You need to amplify that, please, and tailor it as Sam and others have suggested here to breed and your concerns to build a record. Because I think part of this question is even what's the motivation for the state to even take any action if we think it's necessary? What is that? I think we have to build that record to make the case. Right? So this helps do that with our letters and the PA delegation. Kim?
Real quick, once you
You have to use the microphone, sorry. Dr. Sweeney's got that. Sure.
No problem. I just wanted to request that once you go through the draft process and you come up with the final, that you could send it to each of the Horsemen's Association of breeders so that we can use our political, whatever, people that we have, staffing that we have to try to help move that. Even though it is a national, we still have people that do it. So if it can get to us in the final form, that'd be great.
Mr. Chairman, why don't we do this? If the vision is that this will be a letter that's signed by you as chair, and it'll be written in the name of the Racing Commission itself, why don't we just take a quick, see if there's a motion to send a letter to the Pennsylvania Congressional Delegation expressing the viewpoints of this commission on the possibility of federal legislation, and then that way it's authorized by the full commission.
Very good. Yes.
So moved.
So Commissioner Lark on the motion. Second. Commissioner Bundle on the second. Further discussion on sending a letter to our PA congressional delegation. As stated by the.
I just wanted to note that I looked at the legislation. Sorry. I just wanted to note that I looked at the legislation last week, and to my knowledge, I didn't see any Pennsylvania congressman currently co-sponsoring that legislation, so everybody knows.
Okay. Very helpful. Okay, all those in favor of drafting the letter and the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,
Aye.
those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Thank you. Sorry, one opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Let's see where we are. Industry reports.
Okay, general reports, racing directors, call upon Joe Wilson for a racing update, and more in particular about the race secretary position.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good to see you.
Is this on?
Yes.
And what would you like to ask me?
I understand that there's a vacancy probably in the race secretary spot, Sam's leaving.
Yes,
shortly.
yes.
What are your plans are?
My director of racing, Sam Elliott, gave notice to me last week that he is leaving. If you want to know where he's going, he's going to St. Lucian. If you go on drf.com, there's a story about that, so you can get all the details from that in case I get something wrong. So obviously, I'm going to replace Sam, and I'm going to be very diligent about that and not knee-jerk anything. So obviously, I'm not here to tell you I have somebody, but that process is underway.
Joe, I have a quick question.
Sure.
In the interim, my understanding is Sam leaves the 29th through the 30th.
Yes.
Based on your comments, it's apparent that there's not going to be any knee-jerk reaction. You're going to be sensitive to all the issues. What are you going to do in the interim?
Well, I mean, I have a great office staff back there. I have the assistant. I actually have two assistants back there because Nick Black is back there. If you recall, when I went through this process 3 years ago, when Sal Sinatra left, Nick filled in. So the office is capable of keeping everything running, and obviously I'll stay on top of that.
Mr. Chairman, if I could suggest perhaps based upon some of the history of this commission's involvement in these issues in the past, that if someone would like to make a motion to draft a letter to the management of Philadelphia Park indicating that the commission has an interest in ensuring that this process is carried out in a way that's less candidate, that is extremely diligent and faithful to the rules of racing in Pennsylvania, and that the integrity of racing would be the paramount consideration in the hiring process, that might be a good motion to make.
So we have a motion, we'll use what you stated as a motion. Motion, Mr. Rogers.
Second.
Commissioner Clark on the second discussion of sending such letter. Hearing none, those in favor of the letter, the motion say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay,
Thank you.
very good, thanks.
Moving along to horseman groups, Michael Velezi. Okay. The breeders groups, Jim Simpson.
Jim Simpson, Chairman of the Standardbred Breeders Association. I have an observation more so than a report. I will have to say that it's very difficult to get into a popular, especially young stallion on the Standardbred side in Pennsylvania. As far as I know, all the stallions that are worth breeding to commercially are full. We have a restriction by the USDA of 140 mares. And it's pretty good. And I just wanted to point that out anecdotally because I don't know the numbers because they're never done until the end of the breeding season. A lot of our efforts are working. A lot of your efforts are working. Keep it up.
Thank you. Brian Sampatello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Over on page 2 of the handout, you can see that the slot revenue transfers to the breeding fund are down about $900,000. The reason, year to date, the reason for that is that the budget passed last year rolled over. It was late in the year and rolled over into this year, so amounts have been withdrawn this year were actually last year's amounts. The May issue of the Mid-Atlantic Thoroughbred is attached on the back, the 4-page issue. Just like to note that Uptown Charlie Brown stud, who stands Uptown Charlie Brown in Pennsylvania, the managing partner, Bob Hudd, had written this article for us. His group had come over from New Jersey probably about 3 or 4 years ago over into Pennsylvania, and they have approximately 500 members, and they're doing what they can to help Pennsylvania breeding, and they've also been purchasing some upgraded mares because not only do we need good stallions in Pennsylvania, but we need to upgrade the mare population. The annual meeting is on May 23rd. I had mentioned that last time at the Kennett Square Country Club. Any commissioners that would like to attend, please let me know. It's 4 p.m. and dinner will be served. Our awards banquet is on June 8th. Again, just a reminder, it's at the Hotel Hershey from 5:30 to approximately 9:30, 10 o'clock. You have, I passed out to you the Thoroughbred report that we actually, it goes out on a monthly basis electronically, but once a year we print it and send it out to approximately 10 states plus Ontario attached to the Blood Horse. So that's going to go out this year. There's a few good articles in that. Take a look at it when you get a chance. Also, the 2018 stake schedule will go with this out in the Blood Horse this Saturday. And our first 2 stakes on the program will be this Saturday at Parks, the Lyman Stake and the Foxy JG Stakes. And I'd like to thank Mike Velezi and the PTHA for funding the PA Bred Stakes at Parks. Because they do this, it allows us to do other things that promote the Pennsylvania Bred program. Any questions?
I do. Mr. Simpson had things to say. I was wondering, can you give us a status on the number of PA Breds being so far this year that you're aware of, or do you have any information on that?
PA Breds that are, the only information we have is the mare's bred count from 2017. So the mare's bred count was up approximately 19%. We won't get until those horses start registering, we won't get the Jockey Club report on that, but I'm hoping that we're going to be up probably, that 19% is Pennsylvania Stallions, mare's bred. I'm hoping we're going to be up somewhere in the area of about 14-15%.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, at this time, we don't have anyone registered for public comment.
Final comments? Okay, note, please, the next meeting is May the 31st, 1 o'clock, so we'll close that meeting. Motion to adjourn.
I think that's a motion.